All right, this is Professor Hasselman again. This is History 105 Online, and we're wrapping up our Industrialization and Capitalism series of lectures here. And our final one, we're going to be talking about the social effects of industrialization. So, when we often look at the Industrial Revolution, we like to look at the positive side. We have the inventions, the accumulation of wealth, and the development of a capitalist society. But there was a lot of downsides to the Industrial Revolution as well. The factory was a place where large numbers of workers used machines to manufacture goods. And as the factory system spread, the putting out system, or the cottage industry that occurred prior to the Industrial Revolution, disappeared. Now, we all know that when you start to get more and more people moving into a system of factories, we start to get a huge influx of the population, and we start to get overcrowding, which we'll see eventually. This is what occurs during the Industrial Revolution in these larger industrial cities. Early factories exposed workers to dangerous machines and deadly diseases. The demand for cheap labor led to the widespread employment of women and young children, and workers had no health insurance and little job security. So yes, it was a paycheck, but it was a very small paycheck at a very high risk during this time period. The factory system transformed many small towns into crowded cities. For example, between 1760 and 1850, the population of Manchester surged from about 45,000 to 300,000 people. And between 1800 and 1850, the number of European cities with more than 100,000 inhabitants rose from 22 to 47. Workers lived in crowded slums that lacked sanitation. An entire family lived in a single dark room. So again, overcrowding, and this of course would lead to disease and lower life expectancies as time increased. However, there were several advantages to industrialization as well, especially dealing with the middle class. Now, the middle classes, or the bourgeoisie as they're often referred to, enjoyed unprecedented prosperity, political power, and leisure time. And I had mentioned in part 3 of this lecture was one of the developments that occurred because of the railroad development was there was now a way for people to spend leisure time and travel, and one of the reasons that happened was because the middle class was starting to develop and move itself up out of the gutters, if you will. The haute bourgeoisie, or the high bourgeoisie, included wealthy bankers, merchants, and industrialists, and the petite bourgeoisie included shopkeepers, skilled artisans, professional men, and the clergy. So we're starting to get this term, which is very important, the bourgeoisie, which develops, which is this idea of the middle class. These are the people that work not in factories, but maybe manage factories and work outside of the factories. The Industrial Revolution, one of the things that it did as well in terms of social effects, was it helped develop a new class, one that Karl Marx and other socialist writers would focus on. This was the idea of the working class. And as we discuss socialism, and as you start reading about socialism, you'll see this development of an anti-capitalist view that look at the problems that occurred because of industrialization. This is why we need to have an alternative. One of the alternatives that these authors write about is this idea of socialism and later communism, which was a huge contributor to problems in the 19th and 20th centuries and Europe that still exist today.